I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
I'm not even supposed to be here today! Oh, fuck you!
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal. Remember, I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fuck me in the ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Hey everyone, it's Don Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review. And this review is going to be for this year's newest Looney Tunes release, The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, which is directed by Pete Brown-Gott, and was actually the newest film starring the Looney Tunes to actually come out this year under their new brand or deal from Ketchup Entertainment. Yeah, after they pretty much helped adopt some better films for the big screen for the Looney Tunes cast and characters, and the first team up in a while of Porky Pig and Daffy Duck, who are quite an iconic duo. So what is the plot of The Day the Earth Blew Up? Well, in this newest Looney Tunes adventure, Porky and Daffy, the classic animated odd couple, they end up becoming unlikely heroes when they're antics at the local bubblegum factory because they were taken in by a farmer when they were babies, and the farmer has, passed on and joined the afterlife. And they've been taking care of it since then. They're at risk of losing the house due to a hole in the roof. So they have to get a job to keep the house, make money to keep the house. But Daffy keeps getting them fired because he keeps doing a lot of wacky scenarios or just being bad at the job. And they end up finally landing one at this local bubblegum factory. But then around Daffy's antics and uncover a secret alien mind control plot. And so, against all odds, the two then have to save their town and the world if they don't drive each other crazy in the process. So, that's the plot of the film. So as for my reaction, well, I've always loved the Looney Tunes growing up. And when it comes to their movies, I like Space Jam, the original movie. Fuck the 2021 New Legacy bullshit. But I've always kind of preferred Back in Action of the two when it comes to either that film or Space Jam. For me, it's been Back in Action all the way. And kind of somewhat away. Although now, that was until just now. Because I now prefer what is easily now to me the new number one best film of all the Looney Tunes' appearances. I would easily have to say this is easily the best one. Easily, and I think this might be my third favorite movie of 2025 already. Yeah, it took me a while to finally get around to watch this, but it actually did come to DVD in my area. So I was able to pick this up from Walmart, and I loved it. I would have to say that, yeah. And this is honestly a much better family movie than Minecraft or the Brain Rot movie. Yeah, I thought this was better than that garbage. This was actually great. This was actually well written. This was not obnoxious. This was actually well directed. This was actually well acted too. And it was perfectly harmless. So, how was The Day the Earth Blew Up made? Well, around 2019, when they were working on Looney Tunes cartoons, Brown-Gott got asked if he had any ideas for a new feature film, and he settled on the premise of a sci-fi B-movie from the 50s that would star Daffy and Porky. So, he took inspiration from features of the era and shoots starring the cartoon duo. Then Warner Bros. Animation, alongside other vendors, provided the animation for the film. The character designs were modeled after the style of Bob Clampett, Joshua Mosher, and and also who composed the film's score. Then, it was announced in 2021, and The Day the Earth Blew Up was originally going to be released on HBO Max and the Acme Night block on Cartoon Network, but then eventually, though, it did premiere at the Annecy International Animation Film Festival on June 11, 2024, and it did have a limited release in the United States on December 13th, 2024 by a company called Ketchup Entertainment, who I think are trying to get that Coyote versus Acme film made that Warner Bros. Basically shut off and screwed over multiple times. So I don't, because it's already been completed, so I hope it does in a way kind of still get released. And then, of course, though, the reason why it's still, to me, a 2025 movie is because it would expand to wide release on March 14th, 2025. Now, and at the box office, it has, I guess, made a fine enough, did decent business. I'll say that. So, with that being said, why is The Day the Earth Blew Up so great? What makes it great is that the animation in this movie, it is gorgeous, it is smooth, like, you could tell so much love was put into this movie, like, from each frame of the animation to the work of the amazing voice cast. And the running gags of the film are definitely also funny, like, the standalone funny moments, though, like, they don't pull their own weight off either, like, whenever they pause for, like, furthering the plot, or especially with the beloved slapstick that the Looney Tunes are well known for, and, well, when it comes to Daffy and Porky in this movie, like, they really make a terrific comeback with this movie. Like, Ketchup Entertainment, like, definitely, I think, should be the one doing all these Looney Tunes movies from now on. And I hope they keep the rights to the Looney Tunes a little more than Warner Brothers. Because at least Ketchup seems to know how to portray them. And the animation was amazing. And it was definitely respectful to, like, Chuck Jones, who had been creator of the character since the 30s. And when Daffy and Porky worked together to save the Earth, like, yeah, that was a terrific little concept for a Looney Tunes movie right there. And the alien character in this movie, I actually liked the alien character in this movie. I really liked how there was a nice little twist with the alien character in this movie, where at first he was evil, but then you find out near the finale that he's actually trying to save the Earth, when it looks like he's actually trying to destroy it the whole entire time. And the brain-controlled scientist he has with him is also very hilarious. Like, this is the kind of Looney Tunes we should be having on the big screen, but we never really got that. Most of the time we get live-action hybrids, or whether Space Jam, that was good, back in action, well, I liked it, but it's more mixed received because it had studio interference. And then or you have bullshit like Space Crap: A Failed Legacy with LeBron James, which was utter garbage. But thankfully, though, we finally had that right Looney Tunes movie for theaters, and that was this. The saddest thing is, though, it wasn't very wide released, and I wish it was. Right there. And, of course, this is a kind of important film for the animation genre. Like, usually, like, because we rarely get a lot of 2D animated features, and it's nice to see a 2D animated feature like this. Here, like, now, there are computer animated films today I love, but this basically makes the old days of animation. This felt like an animated film from the old days. Right there, you know, an animated film from the 80s or the 90s, like before computer animation started taking over with stuff like Toy Story, and you know what I mean. Right there, and of course, like, this movie shows that you don't always need to have an emotional story to make an animated feature. Because this is not a film that's about traumatic backstories or random betrayals. Like, this is a film that just wants to make you laugh for a simple 91 minutes, and it succeeds in doing that. So, how do we start off the film? Well, we start off with the scientist that sees this asteroid heading towards Earth and sees a UFO hurtling alongside it. But then, of course, that vanishes when he goes to investigate. And then after that, we see how, like, Daffy and Porky's childhood in this movie went, where they got found and raised by a farmer named Farmer Jim. Eventually, and we see, like, you even see some good childhood moments between them. Like, where Daffy's putting butter on the stairwells, and him and Porky are riding down it, or when Porky gives Daffy this huge hammer as a birthday present, or when his bully picks on Porky, Daffy's furious, and he does kind of poop on to get back at him for doing that, and yeah, so you get a nice little montage to see how their life was or whether they're kids, or whether they're teenagers. And once they grow up, and Farmer Jim then, once they grow up, he leaves everything for the duo under the promise that they'll stick together, and in kind of a way, vanishes for good. And you actually see them shedding tears about it. It's like, this was a nice way to start off the movie. I knew I was about to watch something great. Then you get to the present day where Daffy and Porky, where the house is kind of in a way now renovated-ish. But then of course, when they're there though, this is home inspection that their landlord, Miss Gretch, is there to oversee, and they fail it because there's a hole in their roof, even though that the hole got struck by the UFO. So they have little time to repair their house before it gets condemned, and they're kicked out of it. And so they knew they have to make it. They know they have to basically get a job to make the money to pay for the repairs. So how they go is they try getting jobs as a paperboy, but Daffy fucks it up by shooting all the newspapers, but it's hitting all the people, so they get fired for that. They try working at a coffee shop, but when this one customer is trying to order, Daffy pretty much yells in her face that they serve coffee. They get fired for that. Like, there's a funny montage of whenever they're finding a job, Daffy fucks up just about all of them. And then of course, then you get this one bit where Daffy thinks they should be influencers, but Daffy's too cringy, so they fail to be influencers. Even that fails too, and so they only have 2 days left before their home gets pretty much demolished, and they come across this other character named Petunia Pig, who's working for this gum factory and trying to find the perfect flavor. And so she offers to do a job at the factory, and they immediately accept it. And you know where the story is kind of kicking off right there. You see what's being planned in store. You saw the childhood of our main characters. Anyway, and you saw what they have to do. They have to try to look after their house before it gets demolished or before it gets condemned. This movie goes back to basics with the Looney Tunes, even when it has a ridiculous plot for them. I really like seeing Daffy and Porky really team up with one another, and this is definitely Daffy Duck at his most likable right here, where this movie shows you don't always have to make him a douchebag at times, or the evil plan by this alien. Yeah, it's stupid, but once the little twist with the alien happens, it makes sense in the world of the Looney Tunes, and it's perfectly paced, and the runtime's perfect for the plot. The humor's perfect on the cylinders, and it does well making the viewer smile and laugh, and it proves that you can definitely you can make a fully animated Looney Tunes movie in a way, and you can actually do well when it releases it in theaters. Now, also, another thing I like about this film is I love the chemistry between Daffy and Porky in this film. That was honestly the best highlight of the film for me. I loved their dynamic in this film. Their dynamic was enjoyable. It really gives you that Looney Tunes charm that it's known for. The way, I actually really like how this one, they do kind of get on each other's nerves, but they really do care about one another. And what really stands out is the simple stuff of the plot. It offers the perfect unadulterated entertainment without, they have no agendas, you have no stupid bullshit messages that try to be forced to be fit in the modern world. No, this is just a straightforward fun movie experience, and that's exactly what a family movie should be. Just straightforward and a perfect fun experience. Right there, I mentioned the animation is gorgeous, but this animation, it does look a little, this is more modern 2D animation, but it's very well fluid, and this film is proof, everyone says, 2D animation is dead, you can't do a 2D movie anymore, you need to be computer animated, or you need to take the Spider-Verse animation and do something more cooler and more modern. No, 2D animation is not dead. And this film should be proof of that. Because animation is fluid. And this is a proof that you can still make a 2D animated film. Some people are just too lazy and they don't want to. Nowadays, they rather do what makes the most money. And of course, there's some hilarious creative choices. Our Farmer Jim character, he's literally this moving background painting. Or the Art Deco one scene. Which was actually funny as well, but here's the thing though. He is technically a moving background painting character, but even he's got some emotions to him. Like, he's not just a stand-in little character. He actually does feel like a character in the story, despite him still having the same pose. Like, he still has moving mouth. Like, he actually even still turns back to them. Like, in his last scene, he even turns back to Porky and Daffy when he has them promise to look after each other and the home that they were living in. So I like they actually do a little more with him, this whole background little art painting character, and make him still feel like a character, despite, even though he doesn't move much. The jokes are your typical Looney Tunes jokes, and they do get some risque, you do get some of the risque humor, or like whether it's when Daffy tries to be influencer, and then twerks in one bit, but they're not like over forced and cringy to ruin the film, and they're like only brief. They're like only, they don't do that kind of humor that much in this film, and it's only like little brief references, and the characters are still solid. Like, you have good little heart moments between Daffy and Porky, and you have some good moments between Porky and our new character Petunia. So, Porky and Daffy accept the job, and at first Daffy's about to fuck up the whole thing again, but Porky immediately stops him before he can, and Daffy actually listens to the instructions and actually just pulls a switch like they're supposed to. So, I like that Daffy doesn't fuck things up here this time, and actually decides to listen to the instructions here for change so they don't get fired. And you get a brief little musical montage where they're going over their instructions again, and they actually manage to complete their first shift. But however, though, just as things are starting to actually look up well for them, though, Daffy then discovers the scientists is pouring green goo in the gum supply, and the goo is the same like little residue that was found lining the hole in their roof, and Daffy then starts to get suspicious of this, so Daffy tries to go warn Porky, but he dismisses it, though, and a new gum flavor then gets launched worldwide, and Daffy realizes the people who eat the gum get turned to zombies, and there's a launch party going on that's celebrating the new flavor of the gum, and Daffy's trying to warn people, but almost nobody's believing him, and his warnings are not getting through. Then, of course, he tries to warn them at the very launch party when Porky then also, though, tries to stop him from doing anything crazy, but of course then Daffy's like pulled off all his feathers, or then he accidentally pulls down the presenter's pants, and so that gets them fired, and Daffy also gets arrested, and Porky then has to spend their life savings to bail Daffy out of jail, and so Porky's frustrated with him because Daffy got them fired, and now they have to use a life savings so Daffy could get out of jail. And of course, like, another thing though, they don't do the third act breakup here, like, at all. Like, but no, we're only like a bit of halfway into the film though, but the thing is though, they go to meet up with Petunia again, and so Daffy, since they know that Petunia is one of the few that works at that factory, Daffy asks her to investigate a gum sample, but obviously it's because she wants to expose the terrible flavor, because she hated the new flavor, and the thing is, like, you see she actually is kind of a bit of a laughing stock at the place, because she accidentally eats the sponge, and the workers pretty much laugh at her for that, and so you can kind of see I guess you can see why she does not want to celebrate that new flavor at all, because the factory doesn't really treat her all that well, and plus the flavor doesn't really seem all that appealing also as well. But she agrees to help investigate, and she discovers that there actually was this alien that's responsible for contaminating the gum. And at first it seems like the gum's kind of normal, and Daffy's about to finally give up, but then the invader turns the gum into a monster to eliminate the three for thwarting his plans, but they're able to defeat it, and so the three decide that they're going to spray people with this rotten egg extract to make them spit out the gum and burn it. And of course, but Porky is worried about Daffy getting in the way and screwing things up again, so he makes them stay behind to lay more eggs while he technically lies about that, because he sees eggs in the storage, and he immediately buries them all so that Daffy will stay and not get involved. So Porky tells him to stay behind and lay eggs to produce more extract. And of course, like, it is kind of true, because when they're going over their plan, like, Daffy ends up accidentally causing a fire, and he tries putting out with his whole mallet, but Petunia tells him to use his extinguisher, and even that doesn't work. Even that's clearly not working, so I guess you can see why Porky tells him not to get involved. Yeah, and of course, now, and there's the thing, almost 100% of it, there's, no computer animated effects into it. Maybe, some with the alien ship, but nothing really else. This movie's, nearly 100% hand-drawn. And you can tell there was a lot of hard work put into this film. You get the great story. Despite what it would kind of seem like if you're watching something like Looney Tunes, this actually does have a really terrific story. It uses the characters to their fullest, like how they were always in their portrayals, and it works very amazing. And the music and the sounds are well made. Heck, the music and the sounds are much better than a lot of Hollywood movies today. There's even some jokes that even adults would even enjoy and appreciate. This is definitely an example where you just want a great harmless movie to watch. This film is definitely right, especially if you're someone like a fan of the Looney Tunes. And what really makes The Day the Earth Blew Up work so well, right there, is more in the relationship between Daffy and Porky. Well, most of the time, though, a lot of us were used to Daffy being more sarcastic, greedy, and egomaniac, but here, he's actually portrayed as his more earlier self with none of his negative qualities. In fact, honestly, in this movie, Daffy Duck, in quite a while, he comes across as very well-meaning. He actually really does care about Porky, but he has disaster-prone tendencies that really do often seem to really make things worse. They are definitely funny to watch, though, but they do sometimes make a lot of things worse, and even acknowledges this flaw of himself later on. Now, Porky is definitely still the usual stuttering self, but he really does have some antagonistic qualities too, where he gets frustrated with Daffy's foolishness, or Daffy getting him fired multiple times, and even mistrusts him throughout the film. To be fair though, Daffy, despite the fact he does have good intentions in this film, there's times when he does come across as a little annoying in a lot of his appearances, but of course, at even one point, Porky's literally reprimanding Daffy into staying put, because he thinks his craziness is going to cause problems, but it ends up only causing more harm, and so the resolution between the two after that is very touching and well thought out. It's very well heartfelt, and the majority of their banter and interactions are really actually funny, and they actually do well and being played for laughs. Especially with an emotional and touching scene between the two where they admit each other's faults. It does go into comedy territory there, but it actually still is a very well acted moment where they actually do start to admit their faults, and they break down sobbing right there. And of course, you did get the over the top where the streams really shoot out of their eyes hugely, but it's still a well acted moment, and they earn our sympathy throughout the movie, and they hold our interest together very well. That's why the whole over the top part is kind of earned. And another thing about the humor, it is packed with loads of humor, but you also get a lot of references to many sci-fi classics. You get references to the War of the Worlds. You get the references to The Thing. You get a reference to Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And the animation really does do well with the style drawings with Porky and Daffy, when they do the push the button and pull the crank on their first shift, with this powerhouse tune playing in the background when they're doing that, and the jokes really come fast throughout. And here, and there's even one funny bit where Porky decides to actually let Daffy be the hero, where and then of course you see a shot of a live action person, as if you're in a movie theater, literally getting mad at Porky announcing Daffy to be the hero, what the duck has to do is to greenlit this garbage. And yeah, this is fourth wall breaking that has obviously been done, but it's a very loving tribute here. It's not just done for just trying to get cheap laughs. It's not done for pandering. It actually is a funny moment. It kind of feels as if this person was actually inside this theater actually being shown this, and the shadowy figure just storms out. This is 91 minutes, and you can definitely tell it's 91 minutes because it zips at a very fast pace, especially with the Edge of Your Seat finale, with it also very hilarious and very clever as well. So, Daffy, of course, is bored at having to lay more eggs, but Porky and Petunia are successful in de-zombifying the humans, but Daffy steps in and tries to fight with them as well, but they end up destroying their weapons, and so when they try to escape, Daffy tells Porky to jump, but he's hesitant to, but Petunia makes him jump, and Porky ends up landing safely, but before Petunia can jump, she gets captured, and Porky and Daffy get abducted by the invader, and now that Earth's population is under the invader's control, he pretty much destroys Porky and Daffy's house. And then before they get abducted by the now zombified Petunia, who's all covered in the gum. And then the invader initiates the second step in his plan. And Daffy and Porky really argue. They're mad at each other. And Porky admits, whenever Daffy gets involved, it's never fun. Then, of course, the invader then has everyone blow this bubble that will encase the entire planet. And so Daffy and Porky are still mad at each other, but eventually they start to realize their faults, and that's the part I mentioned earlier, where they admit their faults, and then they break down sobbing and reconcile. Of course, that was another moment I really liked in the movie, and their tears end up destroying the whole confinement, and they manage to escape, and they free Petunia and the scientist, and they pop the bubble. But then you find out the whole interesting twist of the film is where you find out the invader reveals this. Destroy the Earth? I wasn't trying to destroy the Earth. And it turns out the invader was actually trying to protect Earth the whole time because the asteroid you saw in the beginning of the film, that was actually still coming towards the planet. And you wanted to use the gun bubble to bounce the asteroid away. So, in a way, Porky and Daffy were actually almost screwing up at the invader's plans to stop the Earth from blowing up. And it was good because the invader was actually going to save Earth. And of course, because the research of bubble tea that he really loves. And of course, now, the three remember Petunia's gum that explodes. And so, the invader helps them. And the scientists, they go to this weak spot in the asteroid. And they place this surplus of the gum near a crystal. And the wind up novelty teeth of the gum. And that chews up the gum. And the teeth get tipped over, though, but Porky instructs Daffy to go crazy, so his antics can cause more crystals to fall and chew the gum. Then the three do try to escape, but Daffy's unfortunately stuck, but Porky, though, in the great character development, decides that he's not going to leave Daffy's side, and so the asteroid explodes once it hits Earth. No, actually explodes before it can hit Earth, and originally Daffy and Porky are presumed dead, so because, this scene really does well in completing the two's character development, where Porky decides that he's not going to leave Daffy's side. He's actually going to help. He's actually going to stay and also sacrifice his life to save Earth with Daffy right there, and even letting Daffy be the one to do the heroic actions. That was also another moment I liked there. That really cements how much they do care for one another in this film, and how it really did complete their character development after they had the reconciliation. When it comes to 3D animation, 3D animation is known for striking a balance between real or cartoon, but 2D animation, this film shows that 2D animation has a lot more room to wiggle in and push pose and expressions, and yeah, it does have the whole classic Looney Tunes feel, especially for a year like 2025. The Day the Earth Blew Up did have its challenge of balancing old with new, having this whole visual aesthetic and having while still having stuff like modern music and still having some references to stuff like smartphones, because even though this is 1940s styled visual animation, this is a film that's still technically set in modern day. So they still gotta have some modern day references. You even have Rem's song "It's the End of the World as We Know It" actually playing in one part of the film where actually playing the montage when Porky and Petunia are trying to de-zombify all the humans, and especially more when the animators do rise to the challenge with the humor, it definitely really does well deliver. And this is definitely just no, it was not just a hand-drawn animation that made the film feel refreshing. It was you're watching an animated movie that is actually free to do what it wants, not have a checklist to do stuff that would obviously be forced to happen. Because, imagine if Warner Bros. Did this movie themselves, they wouldn't really put much effort into the film. And I like that Ketchup Entertainment was the one that did this instead. And it really did feel like and yeah, like, it was also, like, because, like, this is Daffy and Porky, it also does feel like a tribute to some of the more classic Porky and Daffy scenarios, and it's not just them just trying to reference stuff for, like, 2 hours, though. Like, there are some moments where, like, you can see some background characters from older episodes. Also, in a way, like, that you have some references there, but it's not, like, over nostalgia baiting for the entire movie, and how they portray Porky and Daffy is, like, not in a lazy way where it's just done, where it's just trying to make you remember stuff for 2 hours either. So, now we get on with the finale of the movie. So, after Daffy and Porky presumably sacrifice themselves and the asteroid is destroyed and Earth is saved from being blown up, everyone on Earth is celebrating, but at first, like, the invader, then, of course, does the whole take me to your leader thing, but it turns out, like, it says take me to the biggest bubble tea place in the world, and the alien's having bubble tea and enjoying it, but the scientist actually spits in his face, and Petunia's still upset that Porky and Daffy are presumably dead. And of course, though, it turns out but they obviously can't die. That's the thing, though, they can't really die. Because then if they did die, it wouldn't really be a family movie. So they still survive. They crash on Earth. They're stuck to this asteroid crystal. And Petunia's happy to see us and discovers that the crystals were the ingredient, like, she needed to craft the perfect gum flavor. Because it turns out this kid eats the gum and ends up really loving the gum. And so, yeah, now Petunia can have her new gum flavor. And Porky and Daffy get honored as heroes. And although they're still sad about their house being destroyed, but Jim's spirit is, like, talking to them in the clouds, and he, like, tells them it's a good thing he held on to that picture, like, because before that house got destroyed, Porky managed to take the picture of them with Farmer Jim out of the house before that happened, and yeah, it turns out, like, behind that picture, Jim had actually left them a $5 million home insurance contract, and so that allowed them to rebuild the house. Anyway, so they thank Farmer Jim, and he disappears in the clouds, and so Porky and Daffy decide that they're going to build a new home, and then, of course, after that, the landlord is back for an inspection. But Porky, Daffy, and Petunia have to flex their new mansion to her, and, of course, then her head blows up because that's how she gets defeated. But that is how the day the Earth blew up ends. It was obviously a nice way to wrap up this whole, what would kind of feel like a 91-minute Porky and Daffy episode, but it also, in a way, did have elements that would make it a movie work really well. Where this time around, like, Porky and Daffy stopped this asteroid from blowing up Earth. They reconciled, settled their differences, and Petunia finally found the perfect gum flavor. And it turns out that picture was actually $5 million home insurance, and so they're able to build a new house. And they managed to outwit the landlord. So it was a nice way to wrap up this whole little movie. Now, would I have any bad qualities with the film? Now, if I did have bad qualities, like, there's times when the antics do kind of feel like something like a lot of more bad cartoons these days, like, you know, stuff like in modern SpongeBob, where some of the jokes are not really tacked and just jammed in a lot, and there's, like, I did not like the scene with Daffy thinking they could be influencers. Like, that was honestly really cringy. And what else can I think of? And maybe the story could be a little more touched up on. Maybe just a little bit. And there's times they could tone back some extreme comedy to optimize the tale. But other than those, The Day the Earth Blew Up is definitely a delight. And, you know, after watching this movie, I really hope that Ketchup keeps the rights to Looney Tunes, and I hope they barely go back to Warner Bros. Like, a lot of times, because I think Ketchup Entertainment does well with these characters already. Like, this film is proof. And I hope that soon we can already get that Coyote vs. Acme movie be released, because that movie just got completed, and I think it deserves to see the light of day. I really do. I mean, Because if a movie gets completed, then maybe it should see the light of day and not just get scrapped from being released and make the hard work go all for nothing. But that's Warner Brothers for you, because they're too scared of results, even though they clearly sometimes fuck up a lot of stuff in the first place. So Ketchup Entertainment should be having the rights to these characters from now on. I think Ketchup Entertainment should be the one making the Looney Tunes movies. So in the end, the day the Earth blew up, yeah, it's so worth buying for your collection if you're a diehard Looney Tunes fan that wants to see a new 2D animated feature released in this era, and actually even see a Looney Tunes film that actually really feels more Looney Tunes if you weren't satisfied with the last few times. Anyways, guys, that's it for my review of The Day the Earth Blew Up. If we're going to go into The Day the Earth Blew Up, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you are a huge Looney Tunes fan and want to see the good old days of them, then I would totally watch and buy The Day the Earth Blew Up for your collection, no doubt. And if we're going to rank The Day the Earth Blew Up, I'm going to give The Day the Earth Blew Up a 9.5 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That wraps up my review for The Day the Earth Blew Up. So, I'll just put you back here with all my other movies. And now I want to know in the comments down below what you guys thought about The Day the Earth Blew Up if you have seen it. And until then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to Don G. Corleone.